Hi everyone, this is Ron Glick coming at you again from Kalispell, Montana, where I've been held as a political prisoner since 2004. Once again, I do recommend you read my book, Political Prisoner Since 2004. It's available on Amazon. If you really want a copy and you don't want to spend the money, you can always request one directly from me and I will send you a free PDF copy. This video is the second of three introductory videos to older material I recorded and posted on YouTube separately. This video that you'll be watching was originally recorded on October 28th, 2014, and it covers the election of Frank Garner and Ed Corrigan. Now, if you watch the first video, you know the first video dealt with Frank Garner's nomination. This video was recorded a week before the election in 2014 when Frank Garner, who was the former police chief, and then Ed Corrigan, who as of today in 2021 is actually the former county attorney. The problem with this, of course, is that these people are just, it's a preset. There is no challenge. Everyone knows who the people are. The county commissioners control the elections. A few years ago, I even uncovered some tampering, actually ballot stuffing and or ballot throwing away, where they were just basically stacking the votes for the candidates that the county commissioners themselves wanted. And when I actually reported to the state and asked the state to do an independent audit, they just dismissed it as paranoid. And of course, now the Flathead County Elections Office no longer posts those information online. Surprise, surprise. Get caught with your hand in a cookie jar, take away the cookie jar. At any rate, this particular video, before I get too much off on a tangent, is about the election that was happening back in 2014. Frank Garner, of course, won. And of course, Ed Corrigan won. He didn't even have anyone running against him. As is common in Flathead County, once you're in office, nobody ever runs against you. You are guaranteed the seat for the rest of your life for as long as you want to hold it. Guaranteed. You can look at every single ballot for the last 10, 15 years. You see an incumbent in office, whether it be a judge, whether it be county attorney, whether it be the court clerk, whoever, they always run uncontested. And the reason why is because it's political suicide in this county to try to put your name against them. They will destroy your life if you try to challenge their power grip. It's just the way it is. Now, the way it should be, and I'm not endorsing it, obviously. My life is an example of why you don't endorse this kind of corruption, but there it is. I want to take a moment before I get into the video, because I always get asked why I do this. Why am I out here spreading this information? Why don't I just be quiet and just let them do what they want to do? People seem to think that the conviction is over, that so long as I just sit back and do nothing, that my life will be fine. Don't do anything else wrong, don't do any other crimes, don't do any other things that raise hackles with these people, they'll leave me alone. Absolutely not true. I mean, it is so far from the truth. They've tried to revoke me twice over made-up nonsense. And remember, the original crime was fabricated, which means there's nothing stopping them from coming in and doing this to me again. There's nothing stopping them from walking into my house with a bag of drugs of some kind. Just for the record, I don't use drugs. I don't even drink. I'm actually a proponent of legalizing drugs, but I've never used drugs. Imagine that. But there's nothing stopping them from coming with a bag of drugs or a stack of pornography or some other condition that I'm not allowed to do, and just drop it in my house. They're allowed to do what are called warrantless searches, which means I have to consent to them being on my property and searching my home, or if I deny them, then it's a violation and I go to jail. And when they put me in jail, they're always using it as an excuse to put me back in prison for another 15 years. If you read my blog, I've actually talked about the double jeopardy issue, but I'm not going to go into it too much here because I'm trying to make this somewhat brief, and it's so far not ending up that way at all. But I wanted to talk again about how this actually impacts my life. There's a reason why these people staying in power is so important to me to stop. I mean, I have so many restrictions over me that nobody else in the state has. Literally, they create conditions for me, and they think it's okay because it's supervision. I can't date someone who has a child. Whether that child is grown, whether they have custody of the child. For all I know, if the child was deceased, they would have a problem with it. They specifically have told me that if they have a child, even if the child is grown, because they could have grandchildren, and I could be around their grandchildren. It's a ridiculous condition. It's ridiculous. It just is. If I date someone, if I want to say, hey, I want to date, I want to go forward with you in my life, I have to actually submit their name to the probation office, have them interviewed, and have a background check. I actually have to get a permission to actually date someone. And then they have the right to say no. It's not just let us know who you're dating. It's we get to tell you whether you can or cannot have a significant person in your life. I can have friends, no background check. Although I am not allowed to associate with anybody who is incarcerated or is under supervision, which I've talked about in my last video. But if I want to date someone, I've got to actually say, hey, I'd really like to go out with you, but would you mind going to my probation officer and talking to him and be interviewed and have a background check so I can date you? Honestly, before you even get any kind of a foundation or relationship, that's the foundation. Yeah, I'd really like you. I'd like to go out with you and date you. But guess what? I have to have you get permission to date you. Seriously, who wants that? Who would ever even consider it? I found one person who I was sort of interested in, sort of seeing, friends with benefits, borderline. She wanted me to go in and do it with her, but I knew she had a felony record. And I knew instantly that felony record would mean they'd tell me no, I couldn't even associate with her. So it goes from just being a friend to I can't have contact with that person at all because they have a felony. That's what they've told me also, is that I can't associate with anybody who has a felony, who has any kind of, and so long as I can be neutral and not know, I'm fine. If I find out that they're on supervision, if I find out they have a felony background, if I find out anything, I can't pursue anything beyond, hey, how you doing? You want to go have coffee sometime? That's it. I can't date them. So, yeah, I mean, I've even been told if I ever have a child, regardless of whether I'm with the child's mother or not, they will take the child. Because at some point in time, I could get custody or I could get visitation, and that would be a violation of my conditions. And therefore, the state will automatically take any child that is mine. So it actually got to the point I was so overwhelmed. I mean, I raised my son for the first 13 years of his life. I was a single father. I very much believe in parental obligation and parental commitment. If I had a child, I would very much want to be a part of that child's life. And the depression got so bad that, I was, having occasional encounters with people, sexual encounters with people, not trying to be graphic, but I was. And that every time I would have an encounter with someone, I would have to doubt in my own mind, is that person going to get pregnant? Is that person going to have a child? The stress of it, it's hard to describe unless you're actually going through it. But the stress of it, of having to decide whether I'm just going to become celibate for the rest of my life or stress every time I have sex with someone, whether I'm going to potentially be a father and have that child subjected to state custody because they want to have something to use against me. It actually led to the point that I actually got a vasectomy, so they couldn't hold that over my head anymore. I mean, that's how bad it got. It got so bad that I just felt the emotional trauma of it was just so bad. I just couldn't handle it. So I got a vasectomy. That was my way of dealing with it. It's the only way I could see to deal with it. To this day, I don't see I had another choice. I either choose to be celibate or stress out every time I have sex with someone. I can't go to public events. I can't go to Art in the Park, which is an annual gathering of artists who have tents and everything. They put them over here in the local park. I can't even go to parks, by the way. But I can't go to, if they have a Thursday fest in the summertime here, can't go to that. They shut down the street. They have people, local vendors, whatnot, people gathering around, local social organizations. I can't go to that. I can't go to any business that might solicit to a child. I'm a big comic book fan. Look at my shirt. Live every day like you're Batman. 90% of my wardrobe is geek related. I can't go to a comic book store. because comic book stores, quote unquote, solicit to children, even though 90% of their business comes from adults. Same thing with game stores. Same thing with, a toy store. I collect Funko Pops. They're a bobblehead toy. You can look them up online. Can't go to a toy store. I have to buy anything I want. I have to buy over the internet because I can't go to a store to buy it. Unless I see something like in Walmart or whatnot. I can't go to the fair. Basically most public areas are off limits to me. I can't go there legally not because it's a condition of my sentence, but because probation has said, nope, we're not going to let you do that. Businesses have actually been allowed to exclude me just because they find out about my label. Just because they find out I'm labeled a sex offender. Regardless of what's true, anybody who reviews my documentation from a legal standpoint acknowledges there's no reason I should ever have been convicted, but here I am. But I've actually been banned from stores, grocery stores, thrift stores. I've been banned from restaurants. I've been banned from community dinners, all because they find out I have this label and they don't want me there. And then, and I'm told by probation, if I fight it, they'll revoke me because I'm not welcome there, and therefore I'm harassing them, and therefore I'm violating the conditions of my release, and they'll throw me in jail. I mean, I can't even go to them and protest and say, hey, you're wrong. Because if I protest and they get back to my probation office, then I'm harassing them and I'm out here causing problems in the community, and they go back to jail. I mean, I'm deliberately kept poor. I was told from the very beginning I couldn't work with the public. I couldn't work where there's any place where a child might be, because there was a, expectation that if a child entered a business that I was working at, then I would be in a quote-unquote position of authority over that child, and therefore I'd be in violation of my conditions. So I'm not allowed to hold any supervisory positions. I'm not allowed to hold, I don't have any certifications or background degrees that I could use. So basically it cut me off from almost any form of income, which is one of the big reasons why I ended up on disability. Because I do have a chronic joint pain disease. I live with pain every single day of my life. I tried for years to avoid disability, but they forced me into a corner. I had no other way to support myself. And I need things like community dinners. I need things like, being able to shop around, to do things. I'm limited. I have to go into a store, and if someone looks at me, I have to wonder whether they're looking at me because, hey, here's Ron Glick because he's an author, and I do write other books. Or here's Ron Glick, he's the sex offender, and beware him. I never know. I can't go into McDonald's or Dairy Queen and sit in the lobby and have a burger or frozen dessert. I can't go to bars or casinos. No drinking. I don't drink. I don't use drugs. But I can't go to bars or casinos to sing karaoke. I can't go shoot pool. I can't go, hang out with my friends when they want to go do something. And again, by the way, that cuts down my social. In rural Montana, there are no other social aspects. If you don't go to a bar, if you don't go to casinos, you don't meet people. Because they're really, and again, I'm not allowed to go to public gatherings. My social circle is just cut down to almost non-existence. All because they don't want me to connect with people. They are enforcing, my probation office is enforcing a Facebook ban, which is Facebook, which again, this is something I've tried to get support for. I don't have the energy left in me to try to fight every single bigot out there. But Facebook has started it, and then a lot of other social media groups have jumped on board that have said if you have a sex offender, you cannot be on their site. It's discriminatory, it's invidious discrimination, it's a huge issue. But my probation office has said they will, if I violate this private company's online profile, and I create a profile for my author, I create a web page on Facebook for my author, as an author for my books. Even if I create a social media account to try to get this information out, then I'm in violation of their thing, and they will throw me back in prison for violating a private company's policies. I mean, At one point, they even tried to go back and modify my conditions to say that I could not go where there's any reasonable place a child could be present, which is literally everywhere. You can't walk the streets. You can't go. I was living in a public um, apartment building at the time. Well, if you want to call the flop house, kind of whatever they want to call it, an apartment building called the Rosebriar in Kalispell. Um, but there were children who came in the hall because they came to visit people. Even though children were not allowed to live there, they came to visit people, which means I could walk out of my room at any time and see a child in the hall. Which means under that condition, I could not go in my hallway because there's a reasonable expectation a child could be present. I could not walk on the street. I could not shop. For 9 months, they actually held me under that condition because the court was considering it and told me while the court was considering it, I needed to adhere to my probation officer's instructions. And my probation officer's instruction was to follow that. My probation officer even went into court during this hearing and tried to keep me out of an emergency room. My attorney actually asked him, if Mr. Glick walks in with a compound fracture into the emergency room and he's sitting there and a child walks in, do you honestly expect Mr. Glick to get up and leave? And my probation officer, Dave Edwards, said, I would expect him to remove himself from that situation. So translation, I couldn't even go to an emergency room because a child might be present. Literally just, this is how it is. This is what I live with. So when you ask yourself why I stand up, why I keep doing this, why I keep, quote unquote, poking the bear, none of this is lawful. It's all retaliatory. Some of these conditions are held to other sex offenders, like the fair. No sex offenders actually allowed at the fair. But others are allowed to go to the social gatherings. They're allowed to go to art in the park. They're allowed to go to businesses. They're allowed to go to McDonald's or Dairy Queen. They're allowed to go to these places. None of them are held to the you can't work with the general public. These are just, they know, they put more conditions on me than anyone else. So when you look at people like Frank Garner advancing his corruption to a state level, or you look at someone like Ed Corrigan, who runs uncontested because nobody challenges the powers that be in this town. This is where the corruption starts. It starts, and I tried for a period to actually motivate people to actually get involved in the political side. I got attacked like you wouldn't believe all across the internet for it, but I tried. And I'll probably end up getting attacked for this because I get attacked every time I try. There are people out there who are motivated to perpetuate this illusion that I'm some great threat. It's what I have to live with, and it's what I'm trying to make people aware of. So when you're watching this video, keep that in mind. That's my motivation behind what I'm doing. I know this has been a very long introductory video, and I apologize for that because it never was my intention. It's just once I start talking about this, I just want to keep talking. I mean, I could talk for hours and hours and hours. And obviously the idea is to try to keep this focused on a subject that you can absorb in short bursts and then go to the next video as you have time. I do appreciate your time taking here. Do keep in mind, I do want to hear your stories. I do want to hear what you have to say, especially if you've been through this kind of corruption, regardless of where you're at. I still have not gotten Bill's information posted on my blog or on my podcast. I'm still trying to work on getting the video side of this set up. So if you're watching the video part of this, you'll be, oh, wait a minute, it's already video. Well, when I'm recording this, I'm still dealing with trying to find a way to transition from audio to video. I'm recording it as video and then posting it as audio until I get the video working. So eventually you will see this and you'll know what's going on, but understand that when I'm recording this, it's intended to be primarily an audio transmission. So, okay, more information you probably didn't need to know. But I thank you for your time, and I hope you will take the information I'm giving you in this video I'm making right now and the one I'm attaching this to, and contact me. Let me know what you think. Give me information. Give me, something that I can post to share other information. I want to expose wherever the corruption is. I want to help expose it. So long as I have a voice, I am here. Thank you for your time.
With a week left before the election in Flathead County, Montana, I wanted to make one last pitch to you folks out there who might be watching this information. On September 8th of this year, I published this book, U.S. Political Prisoner Since 2004, True Story of an Innocent Man Detained as a Political Dissident in Kalispell, Montana. This book specifically names and identifies with factual documentation the criminal misconduct of Frank Garner, Ed Corrigan, Ted Limpus, Peg Allison, and many other city and county officials. Frank Garner is presently running for the state House district for this county in Montana. Ed Corrigan is also rerunning this election. He is running again for the county attorney's office, which to anybody who's not part of Montana is essentially a district attorney. Every copy of this book has been provided to every news outlet in Northwest Montana that I can locate. I have provided copies to every TV, radio, and newspaper that publishes in Flathead County and in Missoula. Nobody will even mention this book. Nobody will acknowledge its existence. The corrupt government here has such a stranglehold over media that it is literally a state-run institution. No one will speak against these corrupt officials. No one will stop them. No one will run against them. Ed Corrigan is uncontested on the ballot. Frank Garner is up against a figurehead. The Democratic Party put up a person who's going to college, who has no experience, no chance of winning, just to show a pretense of a contest. These people are corrupt, they are entrenched, and this is your last opportunity this election to actually do something about this. So many people come to me and tell me about their own personal experiences, about how what I related in my book sounds so similar to what they've been going through. If you want corruption to stop, this is how you do it. This is the opportunity to start and send a message. There is a gentleman in Whitefish who has stood against Ed Corrigan. His name is Tim Baldwin. Although I disagree with some of his positions, quite frankly, anything is better than Ed Corrigan. Frank Garner is a monster. Frank Garner is somebody who has abused the system as a bully for the better part of a decade. This is the one opportunity we have to stop him. If you don't agree with me, read my book. It's available for 99 cents on Amazon, or you can simply send me a request. I'll send you a free PDF copy. I have scanned documents that show and prove everything I have said. I only ask you to read it, review it, and consider it when going to the polls this election. Remember, this is our one last chance this year. And when you're sitting back and complaining about the election and complaining about the things that the legislature does this next year, or the things that Ed Corrigan continues to do with his office, remember, if we don't stop them here, you had your chance. Please stand with me to stand against corruption in Kalispell and Flathead County, Montana, and from it going to state level. I thank you for your time. Goodbye, and good luck.